actually. Shiva vibrates forth, it's a spanda in consciousness. Actually, this is spanda in consciousness. Whereas Advaita Vedanta would say that because of Maya, consciousness itself appears as its object. Has it actually become the object? No. Has something become separate from consciousness? No. Consciousness is not produced. Even Kashmir Shaivism will not say anything has become separate from Shiva. Even down to stones and rocks, everything is the projection of Shiva, is the spanda of the ultimate consciousness. But even the spanda idea will not be accepted by Advaita Vedanta. Spanda means change. That is absolutely no-go for Advaita Vedanta. So Maya is the same in both, but difference is a very important difference. In Advaita Vedanta, Maya is anirvachaniya, mithya. You cannot say it's an ultimate reality like Brahman. But you cannot say it's not unreal also. Because all of this appears. Brahman appears as this universe. How can you say it's unreal? So it is neither real nor unreal. Sad asadbhyam anirvachaniyam. That is the idea of Maya. Because of that, because Maya is sad asadbhyam anirvachaniyam, false, mithya, the products of Maya are also mithya. Which is so. So big so. Then what are the products of Maya? All of this. The entire Jagat becomes mithya. So that's why in Advaita Vedanta, Brahma Satyam, Nirguna Brahma. Jagat mithya. What about us? You are lucky, you are saved. You are not mithya. You are Brahman. Jiva Brahmeva Napara. The individual sentient being is in reality Brahman. The limitations are apparent. Whereas what Kashmir Shaivism does is, Shiva with Maya, which is the power inherent, always one with Shiva. Using that power, the Shakti, Shiva expands into this universe. Or more, expands is not the right word, Shiva contracts into this universe. Everything here is a contraction of the infinite nature of Shiva, using its own power of Maya. And it stops when it comes to a physical level, this expression of Shiva. And none of this is false. It's all real. Jagat, now we understand, Jagat is none other than Shiva. Shiva misunderstood is Jagat, Shiva properly understood, Jagat properly understood is Shiva. In the case of Advaita Vedanta, same thing, but the Jagat is dismissed as being unreal. Jiva, so the Jiva in Advaita Vedanta is a limitation, an apparent limitation of Nirguna Brahman. Nirguna Brahman with the power of Maya becomes Saguna Brahman, becomes means appears as Saguna Brahman. And the power of Maya can be divided. Brahman cannot be divided. But Maya is spoken of as Samashti and Vyashti. Total Maya and part of Maya. Total Maya is the Upadhi or the power of Ishvara or Saguna Brahman. And a part of Maya, the technical term is Avidya. In each of us, it exists as our causal body, as Karana Sharira. So because of the individual parts of Maya, Nirguna Brahman itself, who as Saguna Brahman appears as the Jivas. And because of the totality of Maya, Nirguna Brahman itself appears as God. And that God, with the power of Maya, projects the 5 elements out of which this universe is formed. So these are Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, all because of Maya in Advaita Vedanta. But all are appearances. The reality is Nirguna Brahman. Whereas the Jiva here is the final evolute, sentient evolute of Shiva, using his own power. So the process is very different. 36 principles are there. So the problem is, Kashmiri Shaivism is so diverse and such a complex system. You tend to get lost in it. So there's a difference in the nature of Jiva and in Advaita Vedanta and Kashmiri Shaivism. Next.
Maharaj?
Yes.
Sorry, so the Jagat is real or unreal?
Real in Kashmir Shaivism, unreal means mithya. Remember, the Sanskrit terms are very precise. Because unreal, see, Sanskrit you have terms like Sat, which is applied only to Brahman, pure being. Asat, non-being, completely unreal, which is ascribed to, say, a sky flower, Kapushpa, or a square circle, which just is not. In between you have Sad Asadbhyam Anirvachaniyam, which is neither Sat nor Asat, which is, for example, square circle you have never seen. Snake in a rope, some of you may have seen. The rope appearing as a snake. That snake is called Sadasadhyam Anirvachanim. It neither is ultimately real nor is not ultimately real. And in this false universe, Sadasadhyam Anirvachanim, again two categories are made. One is called Vyavaharika, one is called Pratibhasika. In this world of ours, our day-to-day world, we have two realities. Here, if you're sitting in the hall and you're looking at the hall and looking at me, listening to my talk, then you are in Vyavaharika reality. This is also mithya according to Advaita Vedanta. But while listening to the talk, great possibility, suppose you fall asleep, now you are dreaming that I'm back at home in New Jersey or New York. That is called Pratibhasika. That's also false according to Advaita Vedanta. Both are mithya. So mithya is divided into two, Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika. So this is the Advaita classification.
Swami, how did you define Jiva in Kashmir Shaivism?
Jiva is none other than Shiva. It's the final evolute of Shiva, the sentient evolute of Shiva. Yes.
If Kartatva is real, does that mean time and causation are part of the ultimate reality? Of
Yes.
Kashmir Shaivism?
Yes. These are powers of Shiva. These are powers of Shiva. These are powers which Shiva deploys. We are under the influence, so we suffer from it. But these are, for Shiva, there are no limitations at all. In our real nature, time, space and causation, these are your powers by which you set up the game that you are playing.
So that's evolution.
These are all, they're evolutes from
Evolutes
Shiva, from the Shakti of Shiva.
Yeah. Like thought and speech.
Right.
Excuse me. If those powers are Maya,
They're all under Shakti or Maya. They are all, we can consider them glories of Shiva, and they are real powers. Whereas Advaita Vedanta would not consider them real powers. If you ask, is the Nirguna Brahman of Advaita Vedanta powerless? They will say yes, and it's not a defect. Swami Vivekananda in one place says, what requires power? It's only the imperfect which requires power. I need some power to cross the river. The bird needs the power of flight. I need the power of constructing a bridge. So these are powers. But they are powers because we are limited. Because we cannot do something, we need some power to do something. Whereas, just imagine an infinite, perfect being, Satchidananda Brahma. What would it need to do? If it needed power, it would be limited in some way. So the absolute, you cannot talk about power at the level of the absolute. Power comes one step below, when the absolute appears as Ishvara, Saguna Brahman, as the power to create, maintain and dissolve this universe. Whereas, in Kashmiri Shaivism, power is real and it is the power of Shiva. Power comes from the Vimarsha aspect of Prakasha, Vimarsha, Swarupa. Ultimately, Shiva is Prakasha and Vimarsha. Consciousness plus awareness, self-awareness. And from there emerges all of this.
I'm trying to get my mind around
Don't. My experience is Advaita Vedanta, it's not so difficult. It's actually, if you try a little bit, you can get it. But that I'm biased because my approach is that. Kashmiri Shaivism is vast. One of my, a monk in our order called it a Baroque philosophy. Baroque in a very
intricate.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the concept of Jagat is real.
Yeah.
That's what you said, Kashmir Shaivism. I'm just trying to understand what would real mean. For something to be real, it would be observable by consciousness. If it is observable by consciousness as something outside consciousness, doesn't it lead to duality? And if it does lead to duality, why do we consider it as a non-dualistic system?
Right. So, no, it does not lead to duality when that which you observe is none other than you. Notice, for the object of, for consciousness experiencing something, whatever consciousness experiences is an object to consciousness. By definition, whatever you experience is your object. So you see me, I am the object of your sight. You hear my voice, this is the object of your hearing, and so on. Now, Kashmiri Shaivism would say that whatever Shiva experiences is his own nature only. It is a product or an evolute of his own nature. It is at no point outside his nature. So there is no second reality really, though it appears to be second. But there is no second reality ultimately apart from Shiva. In that sense, it's non-dualistic. Advaita Vedanta would say So here you have touched upon a very sensitive point. If you ask, what is Advaita's reaction to all this? What would be Shankara's reaction? So Shankara's reaction is the sword of logic. He would ask this question, what you asked. He would say, so you are experiencing it in consciousness. This object means this universe. Is it outside consciousness? Kashmiri Shiva says no. Because if it's outside Shiva, then it becomes dualistic. It's not dualistic. It's within the consciousness. If it's within consciousness, is it anything other than consciousness? No. But if it is only consciousness, then you cannot experience an object. So it is consciousness appearing as an object within itself. Are you with me? If it is consciousness alone, you agree. Kashmiri Shiva agrees that it is consciousness alone. And yet you agree that it appears as an object, that it is also an object to itself. Then that object to itself must be an appearance. If it's an appearance, then Jagat Mithya. Why are you saying it's real?
I would say that because consciousness appears simultaneously both Prakasha and Vimarsha, and Vimarsha being dynamic,
Yes.
can change from universal to the particular.
Yes.
And that's where this thing arises.
Right. But the universal to particular, when it changes from universal to particular, is that particular apart from Shiva? No. Is it in Shiva? Does it share Shiva's nature? Everything you have to say yes. If it shares Shiva's nature and yet it appears to be other than Shiva, that appears to be immediately Shankara will put Mithya. Yeah. Therefore Jagat Mithya. Logically it's very difficult. Why Advaita Vedanta is regarded as supreme is because the logic there is extraordinary, very difficult to wriggle out of that. I haven't found, even today, consciousness studies, I have contacts with the philosophers working in NYU and others, very difficult to wriggle out of the logic of consciousness in Advaita Vedanta. Yeah.
The answer would be that it is not outside anything, you see, but through this vimarsha, it reduces some of its full appearance. And because it reduces full appearance, therefore the particular which is appearing so to the particular only, not to the Shiva, particular to the only because his full potentiality has been suppressed.
Right. So full potentiality has been suppressed, so Shiva now appears as Jiva, and full potentiality has been suppressed, so Shiva now appears as Jagat, and the Jiva and Jagat seem to have a dualistic experience. Apparently dualistic experience. But from Shiva's perspective,
It is
purely one,
yeah.
unlimited, and so therefore this must be an appearance in Shiva. It can't be a real separate thing. It's not separate. See that logic of, is it separate or not? If you say no, even when it, so the separateness is an appearance. If you say separateness is an appearance due to the limited potentiality of the subject and object. That's how Kashmiri Shaivism will explain. Then the word appearance still has to be used. So anyway, this you will not resolve here. And the problem goes straight back. I'll just give you a hint. Those who are interested, what would Advaitins say to Kashmiri Shaivism? So all these things. Chandradhar Sharma in his last chapter gives a critical, an Advaitic estimate of Pratyabhikya philosophy. About 10-15 pages it gives. So read that. Prepare to be shocked. So there he says the whole problem goes back to Prakasha Vimarsha Swarupa. Naturally they will attack that. You cannot combine the two. That will be Shankara's point. You must reduce the Vimarsha aspect to the level of Maya. You can't keep it at the absolute. And why it is put at the absolute, there are certain reasons. See, one way of understanding this would be, Kashmiri Shaivism is a technology of enlightenment. Lot of these things are experiences of mystics. More you study them, you begin to see that they are, when the mystic is practicing and carefully observing and noting it down and systematizing it, you get these structures. Now these are very good for a sadhaka. But for a ruthless philosopher like Shankara, he will sweep it aside. So that's where the difference
There is
comes.
a problem then appearing here in the Maya also, because in Advaita Vedanta, because finally, why is Maya to start with there?
Yeah. So why is Maya? So question, why Maya? I think many people from Vedanta Society will immediately, I will answer the question. Yeah, so all those things are discussed. We can discuss it some other time. Shankara Vivekananda says the question itself is wrong. If you ask why is the question wrong, seems to be a good question. So there are answers to that. Yes.
So the process that I think you mentioned, the jnana, ichcha and kriya,
Yeah.
is that the one that's missing link between Jiva's realization of Shiva, full realization of Shiva? Because you can think this process to be reiteration and a staircase to reach that. So you have to have an ichcha, and then you have to be, there has to be an action.
Knowledge and action, yes.
And that feeds into the knowledge,
Yeah.
and that reiteration process.
Correct.
Is that
That, you're right. That is the process through which Shiva becomes this world. Without that, Shiva cannot become this world. And becoming this world and becoming Jiva also, at the level of Nara, we still have those powers. All the powers of Shiva are still within us, only in tiny portions, in contracted portions. And those contracted powers enable us to carry on samsara, suffer and live in samsara and all of that. And those powers themselves will enable us to go back to Shiva. And they are actually, you will see how they are actualized. In the second session I'll talk about sadhana, spiritual practices. They are based on these powers only. Yeah, we'll see. Next.
Actually, this is answered by, I think, in the Panchaza, one of the stotras, aham tom aham cheti, bhinnata navayo kavishit, samadhi grahane chaya, vedasya vastirhaya. So that means you and me are same, but ichha is only mine to get samadhi, not yours. That
Yeah, but again you notice, this is very much true from the sadhaka's point of view.
Yes.
If you carefully observe how sadhana is being done, and then you describe it, then it becomes like this. What Shankara would say, purely from a logical point of view, does it stand or not? So, anyway, we can go on. There is no end to this discussion. These are like really subtle matters. Ajnana, the role of ajnana is again different. In Vedanta, ajnana is a power of is a part of Maya. It has two powers, avarana and vikshepa. It hides the real nature of Brahman from you. You are Brahman, it's hidden because of avarana shakti of ajnana. And it projects Brahman as this world and as this body-mind complex. So vikshepa. This is the idea of ajnana in Vedanta. And it can be overcome by jnana. Particular jnana about yourself. Aham brahmasmi ityakara jnana, that will overcome ajnana about myself. Whereas in Kashmir Shaivism, this is further divided. They talk about the three levels of ajnana. At the level of there is the maya mala, the karma mala, and at the level of the anava mala. So the ajnana functions at three levels. At its core level, it provides us with the causal body which makes Shiva into Jiva. That's the core of ajnana. We forget that we are Shiva. That's why realization is not called jnana here. It's recognition, pratyabhijna. It's not that I did not know it, now I know it. No, I knew it. I suddenly come upon my real nature and say, oh, this is what I am. So this is called the philosophy of recognition. Pratyabhijnayate. Shankara himself uses the word sometimes. So you recognize your nature as Shiva. Then there is Maya Mala. That means by the power of Maya, we get two bodies, subtle body and gross body. So Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira. And there is something called Karma Mala. Once we have got the body-mind complex, we are up to mischief. All sorts of good and bad things we do, and we generate karma, and that becomes part of the effects of ajnana on us. So we have multiple layers of ajnana. As we go through the cycle of life, we keep on collecting dirt. So we have to be put through the wash cycle of the washing machine, so to take the dirt off. Anugraha, grace, very important in Kashmir Shaivism. It's only by, yes.
For the number 6, ignorance, is that in Kashmiri Shaivism, is that also part of Shiva? Is it one of the evolutes or?
Is ignorance one of the evolutes of Shiva?
Is that?
I have to see.
It is actually the taking away the powers, hiding the powers.
It is like a kanchuka, it's like a contraction of the power, kanchukas. So Ajnana as such would not be correct. It's not mentioned in the list, I think.
It's not a tattva.
It's not a tattva.
Arising out
It's an effect of the Kanchukas, I think. It's an effect of the contractions. So, Kashmiri Shaivism looks at the contraction of the infinite nature of Shiva as this world and us. So, all the powers are contracted. And that can be understood as the effect of Ajnana, of not knowing our real nature as Shiva. Well, once you know, these contractions are removed. You become the infinite. It's called Purna Ahamta, the cosmic I.
The other thing which is very important to keep in mind, that in Kashmir Shaivism, for every tattva, there is a Sakshi. And the Sakshi levels change as
Yeah.
you go all the way to the Shiva. I mean, for example, at my level,
Right.
I don't remember the names now.
Yeah. And so at every level you will see, because it's a realistic philosophy, if you feel that I am the witness of this body-mind complex, so you are Sakshi at this level. But if you feel that you are a witness of the cosmic drama, you are Sakshi at that level. And you can see why a sadhaka would say that. What would Advaita do? It would collapse all the Sakshis into one.
Yes.
Why? Because logically you cannot distinguish between one Sakshi and the other. The distinction is between your body-mind and my body-mind. But consciousness, who is the witness of this body and mind, and consciousness, who is the witness behind that body and mind, how will you distinguish two consciousnesses? You cannot. Therefore, logically speaking, Shankara will say it is one Sakshi, and that Sakshi is ultimately Nirguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman actually. That is the conclusion of Shankaracharya.
But that Sakshi cannot be aware of the universe.
Ultimately, in Nirguna Brahman stage, it's not aware of the universe because it's an appearance anyway. But in Kashmiri Shaivism, if you go through it experientially, how does it feel to the sadhaka? It would feel that I am a Sakshi in this body and mind. If right now if you try to feel, you will feel that. And that feeling, if you freeze it at that level, that becomes a point in Kashmiri Shaivism. And then that at every level you will feel like a different Sakshi. So that's how the differences came. Are they really practically big differences? No. That's why you see Advaita teachers very happily they use Kashmiri Shaiva techniques, frameworks, all of that. Yeah.
Is ignorance a leela, a play?
You can say in Kashmiri Shaivism definitely it's play. In Advaita Vedanta they would not try to use such a word.
No.
Sadhana we will see in the second session, because that's a really interesting portion, how the sadhana of Advaita Vedanta, sadhana is spiritual practice, and the sadhana of Kashmiri Shaivism, how they differ. Very interesting subject. There is Kashmiri Shaivism sadhana is vast and really sophisticated compared to Advaita Vedanta. Before I end this session, yeah.
So where the anugraha is?
Oh, Anugraha, I'll come to that, yes.
So you mentioned the gospel parallels to, so can you
I'll bring
point
it out.
out
When we talk about sadhana,
Okay.
I'll bring it out. In many cases, you will find what Sri Ramakrishna teaches and his experiences which he talks about are easily understood in Kashmiri Shaiva terms, not so well understood in Advaita terms. If you try to force Sri Ramakrishna into Advaita paradigm, you'll have to do like a Procrustean bed. You have to cut off this side and that time and squeeze. But many of the things Sri Ramakrishna talks about, especially in sadhana, you will see they match easily with the Kashmiri Shaiva framework. Anugraha, grace, very important in Kashmiri Shaivism. In Advaita Vedanta, it's more problematic. There is a text in the Kathopanishad, Yame Vesha Vrinute, Tasyesha Vivrunute. That means this Atma, whomever it chooses, to that one it reveals itself. Now that seems like grace. Grace means kripa, anugraha. So the Atma is revealing itself to the one it chooses. But when you see Shankaracharya's explanation of that bhashya, he says, whom will the Atma choose? To whom will it reveal? To the one who chooses the Atma, Atma will reveal itself. So what he does is, you have to choose the Atma means you have to make up your mind that enlightenment, God realization is my goal in life. That is choosing the Atma. And then the Atma will reveal itself. Atma means you yourself. So he sort of seems to wipe out.
There seems to be that here the grace is from the Maya, because your choice is the act of Maya. And therefore the grace is from Maya. Okay, you can see it now.
In that way, a more bhakti approach would be. Sri Ramakrishna, these things, Sri Ramakrishna explains so nicely. He says, Rama, Lakshmana and Sita are walking in the forest. So Rama is Ishvara and Sita is Maya, and Lakshmana is Jiva. Only if Sita steps aside, then the Jiva can see Ishvara. So the Jiva is supposed to pray that, "O Mother Mahamaya, please by your grace reveal thy true nature." Shiva is the true nature of Mahamaya only. But Advaita Vedanta would not go down that route generally. In his more devotional moment, Shankara would say all of this. But if you look at the Upanishads and the Bhashyas and the Brahma Sutra, no. However, as an exception, I'll say, I found a book, The Role of Grace in Shankara's Soteriology, or in Shankara's Advaita Vedanta. Malinowski or something. Yeah. Book this thick. The whole book is where Shankara mentions grace, anugraha, in many places throughout the commentaries and definitely in the stotras. So he openly admits the importance of grace. And sadhana we will see later. Next. So I thought I should just put it that this is very simple. When we're talking about Advaita Vedanta and Kashmiri Shaivism, what are we talking about actually? So what are the texts? The fundamental texts of Advaita Vedanta, you know, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, they are together known as Prasthanatraya. Upanishads are the core, the foundation of Advaita Vedanta. In fact, when we memorize the definition of Vedanta, when studying Vedanta, Vedanta Sara, the definition is Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. So the source of knowledge called, spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads is Vedanta. The philosophical questions arising out of the Upanishads are discussed in the Brahma Sutras. About 555 sutras written by Badarayana and Vyasa. And the practical application of the teachings of the Upanishads are in the Bhagavad Gita. If you take one book which is most famous for Hinduism as a whole and for Vedanta, it would be Bhagavad Gita. But then you see, Abhinavagupta, beautiful commentary on Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is equally a text for Kashmiri Shaivism also. So, and then Shankaracharya writes the commentaries on each of them. On the Upanishads, at least 10 Upanishads, Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Munda, Mandukya, Titiri, Aitareyam, Chandogyam, Brihadaranyakam. So there's 10 Upanishads. Shankaracharya has written commentaries. So those commentaries are very important as texts for Advaita Vedanta. He has written a commentary Bhashya for Bhagavad Gita, he has written a commentary for Brahma Sutra. This is the corpus, this is how you study the fundamental texts. You can call them canonical texts of Advaita Vedanta. These are texts for any school of Vedanta. Vishishta Advaita, Dvaita Vedanta, they all have to take these as texts. And then there are many texts written by Shankaracharya and afterwards, till today, by the great masters, various kinds of what are called prakarana texts. Some of the prakarana texts are introductions. Aparokshanubhuti, Atma Bodha, these are written by Shankaracharya. These are simple ones. The difficult one is Upadesha Sahasri. Vivek Chudamani. Though some scholars keep on disputing whether it's by Shankara or not, but anyway, go on disputing, but it is. I found a very nice book today, right here. See, books have been continuously written. On Vivek Chudamani, we got it from the temple. See, here, right here in the temple. So this is by Satchidananda Shiva Abhinava Nrisingha Bharati. So he is from the Sringeri Pita. What he has done here is, he has written a commentary on the first only 7 verses of Vivek Chudamani. So that they have published with translation. I have never seen this book earlier. So anyway, so this can be called a Prakarana Grantha. So the whole tradition of writing Prakarana Granthas, commentaries, sub-commentaries, sub-commentaries, yes.
Can we take a break in 5 minutes for lunch? Is that reasonable?
Sure. We are.
What was the logical break for it?
Yeah, sure.
12:45. Okay, thank you.
We will 12:45. We'll take a break. So whole range of Prakarana texts have been written. Some are introductory, some are more difficult. Well-known Prakarana texts, Vivek Chudamani. Then there is a text, your Panchadashi is very well known as an introduction to Advaita Vedanta. Vedanta Paribhasha. And the Vedanta Sara, which we used when we learned Advaita Vedanta, classical way we trained, the first text we studied was Vedanta Sara, which is written about 700 years ago for students. And all of them have commentaries and sub-commentaries. There is another class of dialectical works in Vedanta. They are called the Brihat Prasthanatraya. Khandana Khandakapya Sri Harsha, Chitsukhi, Pratyak Tattva Pradipika, Chitsukhi, and Advaita Siddhi of Madhusudan Saraswati. These three. Somebody called them brain fryer. So they are just logical. I mean, attacks on Advaita Vedanta Siddhanta by opponents, Purva Paksha, and logical defense mounted. Very subtle, extraordinarily difficult, but very interesting also. Those are also texts, so that's the tradition. And nowadays, and after that, many books were written on Advaita in non-Sanskrit, in the Indian languages. One of the most famous ones is Vichar Sagar, which is regarded as good as any of the Sanskrit texts, or better. And that was written just 200 years ago by Nishchal Das ji, who was a sadhu of the Dadu, this Nath Sampradaya, Dadupanthi. It is a very interesting story, no time now, how he was discriminated against. He was not allowed to learn because caste problems, things and like that. And he felt that why should all this wonderful knowledge, people be deprived of this knowledge just because they don't know Sanskrit. So he was a brilliant student of Vedanta, and he put all his knowledge together, translated it into Hindi, and wrote this book, Vichar Sagar. Interesting side note to this. He wrote it in Hindi so that the masses could understand it. Okay? Today, if you take that book, you won't understand a word of it. Simple. Over 200 years, Hindi has evolved. Unless you are a scholar of Hindi, old Hindi, you will not be able to understand. But go to the Sanskrit, you can understand. So that's very paradoxical. Luckily, the way I read Vichar Sagar is because another Swami in the 20th century who lived near the bank of the Kaveri, he saw this Vichar Sagar, Hindi Vichar Sagar, and he saw, oh, it's a nice book. It should be in Sanskrit. So he translated that. So there's now a Sanskrit Vichar Sagar. There is now a Sanskrit Vichar Sagar, which I have got. And you can read it and you can easily understand very simple Sanskrit. But the Hindi, in fact, just 2 days ago, Swami Chaitananji, who was a very senior monk of our order in St. Louis, he wanted an explanation. He said, I don't know, my Hindi is not so good. Here is a little verse from the Vichar Sagar, the original Hindi Vichar Sagar of Nishchal Das. Could you give me a translation? I also could not understand it. So I had to look for, a translation was made in 1885 by Lala Sriram. And there I found the translation and I sent it back to him. I had to go to the Sanskrit Vichar Sagar to understand the meaning of the Hindi. Kashmiri Shaivism, vast literature. These are only the well-known sutras. Shiva Sutras, you know. I think Vasugupta was the one who discovered on the big Shiva rock the sutras were written. Spandakarika, Vijnana Bhaira, Pratyabhigyan Hridayam. These are the famous ones. But there is a vast literature. I think this whole library is there in my bag.
There is actually the root text of this called Siddhi Yogeshwari Mata.
They were big tantric texts I've heard. Vast, and they are not translated. Many of them are not translated.
No, Siddhi Yogeshwari Mata is left only in Bengal. In Bengal there is one copy of that and one is in what's called Nepal.
All right. Yes.
So the key philosophical difference between Kashmiri Shaivism and Vishishtadvaita is
Shaivism, Vishishtadvaita.
why is Kashmiri Shaivism not at all Vishishtadvaita? What would be?
Vishishtadvaita. There have been many differences, but Vishishtadvaita is not non-dualism, whereas Kashmiri Shaivism is non-dualism. Vishishtadvaita, it maintains a Swagata Bheda. That means the difference between, we are all part of Vishnu, but our relationship is like Amsha Amshi, part and whole. So just like hands and legs, head and belly are all parts of my body, but they are not the whole of it. Similarly, all the jivas, Jiva Jagat Vishishta Brahma, all jivas and all, the entire insentient universe, we are all part of Brahman, of Vishnu. But that's not how Kashmiri Shaivism understands it. Kashmiri Shaivism says there is an ultimate consciousness whose pulsation, spanda, at various levels is this universe. Ultimately, everything here is Shiva, not just a part of Shiva. We are not part of, in the ultimate reality, will you become Vishnu in Vishishtadvaita? Not at all. They'll chase you with a stick if you say that. You will say, I am Vishnu. Never. You are only a tiny portion of Vishnu, and your relation with Vishnu is the Lord and the servant, or the whole and the part. Shesha Sheshi. Never can you say that I am Vishnu. That is sacrilegious. Whereas in Kashmiri Shaivism, you have to come to the point ultimately, in this life or some life, that Shivoham. That is the holiest, the highest understanding. So Hamsa mantra can be happily chanted in Kashmiri Shaivism, never in Vishishtadvaita. That is against. So ultimate reality there will be accessible through bhakti. Here ultimate reality is accessible through jnana, and in a specific way jnana is generated. So let's stop here. I think that's the last one. Yeah. In the next session we'll look at sadhana.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll break for lunch. If you know your way, if not, Amrita will lead you. You got to go behind the temple, and there's a nice, beautiful walkway up. There's a special area reserved for us for lunch, and they're ready for us now. There's no parking there, literally. So if you have to drive, just drive, drop off, and come back and park back here, because it may not be able to walk. But most people can walk. It's about a 5-minute walk. Okay. So we'll meet back here at 2 o'clock. We'll have some tea outside just to wake you up. But please remember, absolutely no drinks, food, anything allowed. You will have to sit here for next week, clean it up if we bring it in.
No, it's not.
Very strict. No, except for people who have already been on the stage. Thank you so much.